Now, one of the things that we try to do at New Life is be intentional with everything that we do. So even with our graphics and even with our color schemes and things of that nature, everything typically tends to have meaning to it. So let's take our logo, for example, and we want everybody that's a part of our ministry to know what they're looking at whenever they're looking at the New Life logo. If you notice in our logo, of course, the N and the L, that one probably is pretty self-explanatory. Those are the acronyms for New Life. And you notice around the N and the L, there are numerous arrows going in various directions. All right, these arrows are not just there because they look good, but these arrows represent the constant nature of change. If you remember, we talked about our vision statement, cultivating a Christ-like culture. And we mentioned how God's intent is for humanity to live according to his original design for creation. There were principles and ways of living that God had in mind before the foundations of the world were laid. However, even in that, God did not create us without the capacity to change, without the capacity to evolve. Now, God doesn't need to change because he's altogether lovely. He already exists in perfection. We, on the other hand, as humans, we were created with the capacity to grow. We were created with the capacity to evolve. That's why he told Adam and Eve in creation, be fruitful and multiply. Fruitfulness and multiplication introduces us to evolution, evolving, and change. Change is something that is not a quick fix, especially change in culture. And so if we even, again, go back to our original vision statement and understanding that our vision here for New Life is to see the cultivation of a Christ-like culture. Well, you don't cultivate culture overnight. There's no quick fixes to it. There are things that many of us come from that are deeply ingrained in our personalities, in our character, in who we are, in our background. And so it takes time to make certain changes. All of us have certain habits that we've developed, good or bad, that may need to undergo change in terms of how it fits within God's kingdom culture. Because everything that we learned in our culture doesn't translate over into kingdom culture. And so these constant arrows that you see, these arrows going in various directions, that's what that represents. That represents constant change. Listen, we're constantly evolving at New Life. We're constantly looking not only for ways to make our church better, but to make each individual that's connected with our church better. All of us should be improving. All of us should be evolving. But as we see with these constant arrows in our logo, change is a lifelong process. You will never arrive at a place to where you can say, I got it. We're always learning something new. God is so big, he's so expansive, there's so much to God that our finite minds cannot grasp them in this lifetime, in this world. And so while we're in this world, we're constantly growing. We're constantly learning more about ourselves. We're constantly learning more about the world around us. We're constantly learning more about God. So if you are a member of the New Life Full Gospel House of Worship, it literally means that you accepted the responsibility and the privilege to constantly get better, to constantly prove, to constantly improve. You also see the three semicircles that end in the arrows. These semicircles may not be able to tell on the surface, but these are actually three C's. So these three arrows going in different directions actually form three C's, the letter C. These three C's actually represent the three C's that are in our vision statement. cultivating a Christ-like culture. Cultivating, that's one C. Christ-like, that's the second C. And then culture, that's the third C. So that's just a way of keeping the vision in front of our people every time they see that logo. So every time you see that New Life logo and you see those three C's, you're reminded of the fact that you're constantly changing, that you're constantly getting better, and that you're constantly improving.